Lily Phillips, a 23-year-old OnlyFans model living in London, hosted an event where she slept with 100 men in one day. Now, you might think this is just a stunt. An extreme measure were taken just to achieve online fame. And you would be right.
All's fair in love and war.
However, the situation is more complex than what it seems. And we need to ask ourselves how we ended up here. The implication of such behavior extend beyond the individual and affect society as a whole. Now let's take a closer look and analyze together.
I'm Lily Phillips, and today I'm getting run through by 100 guys.
I'm sure we've all seen the documentary, so I'm not gonna go through all of it. So let's fast forward a bit. Maybe we can start here.
University, but then haven't gone on to become OnlyFans stars.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just was like already very, not proud, like very just okay with doing.
Here is where the problem begins. She said, I was just okay with doing that. Now we must ask ourselves how we reached a point where promiscuity is normalized and discussed as it is just a personality difference or an expression of individual liberty. Like being a coffee drinker where someone else prefers to drink tea.
We're just,
How does that make you feel?
Oh, I literally, I've never really cared what people think. It doesn't really bother me.
She said, I don't care what people think of me. It doesn't really bother me. I can't help but to reflect on that. For example, growing up as a Middle Eastern woman, I had to think not only how my actions would impact my reputation, but also how they would impact my family's reputation, my dad, my brother, and so on. Simple things like the way I dress, the people I associate with. Now, I understand that concepts like shame and purity are taken into extremes in some cultures. But ladies and gentlemen, this is why we need shame. When someone does stunts like these, not only in private, but they broadcast it on the internet for everyone to see, posing like role models for young women, and associating their behaviors with noble qualities like bravery and rising above the opinion of others, it's not going to damage them only, it's going to damage us as a society, desensitizing people to extreme behaviors.
I have such a supportive family and friends, and what they think about me is so much more important than what strangers think about me.
Here you go. This should answer any questions you might have. It all starts from home, from the childhood, from the family unit. We are the product of our own environment. Morals and values are typically inherited through generation. We don't only inherit our hair or eye color from our parents, we inherit their dysfunction and their attitude to money, relationships, and health, etc. So what do you expect if her own family is supporting this? I read somewhere that her mom is even her own accountant, although I'm not entirely sure. However, what we know as a fact is that her parents are supporting this. In fact, many successful OnlyFans models have the approval of one or both of their parents. And in these cases, usually the model is supporting her family financially and the parents are blinded by money. I've seen many videos on YouTube where an OnlyFans model say that her father is supporting her and is encouraging her not to quit. However, in Lily Phillips' case here, the fact that her mom is actively helping her speaks volume about the home that Lily grew up in. Many of these parents are living their dream life through their children. For example, in many cultures, parents want and sometimes force their children to become doctors because they couldn't do it themselves and because such a career is viewed as respectful in their generation. So they live their life through their children. And the same applies here. I bet that if her mom had the chance back then to do the same thing and get paid for it, she would. Now let's fast forward a bit.
Your parents must be very sort of forward-thinking and open-minded, which is great, because I think if
Forward-thinking and open-minded. We see this narrative repeated over and over again, linking promiscuity to liberty and to forward and progressive thinking. On the contrary, we link modesty and being selective with who you share your body with to things like being a prude or regressive, or to backward thinking and closed-mindedness.
I think at the end of the day, people forget there's also my fantasy.
Now, why would someone have such a fantasy? Here again, we see that this is not just a stunt to achieve online fame or increase her online OnlyFans subscribers, but this is actually something that she really desires. Now, why would anyone want or fancy to sleep with 100 people in one day? Now, we see here an attempt to normalize certain behaviors as just a normal and innocent fantasy. The underlying message being that sexual liberation is a form of women empowerment. And if you have a fantasy, no matter how sick or twisted it is, just go for it.
Mum always call me every day. What have you been up to today? I'm just getting railed. What are you?
Growing up, there are certain things I just couldn't tell my mom, out of respect. And until this day, there are certain things I feel embarrassed to tell her. And I get it. There are certain moms who want to be friends with their children. They want to encourage their children to tell them anything. And that's why they act like the cool moms.
Like a regular mom, I'm a cool mom. Right, Regina?
But come on, telling your mom that you are getting railed and getting paid for it, and making it sound like it's as innocent as telling your mom, hey mom, I finally kissed my high school crush. Or, hey mom, I finally slept with the guy I'm dating and it feels amazing. It's not the same. Again, this emphasizes the ideology that sex is not that important and it shouldn't be taken too seriously. Sex and love are seen as separate, same as body and spirit are separate. That having a high body count signifies that you are experienced, empowered, and modern. It means that you have forward thinking, you are open-minded and progressive. Let's fast forward here.
I think now I'd find it hard to make friends in terms of like real friends that really just see me for who I am and not like...
They see me for who I am. So what you are doing isn't who you are? I mean, you call yourself the UK biggest... Isn't what you're doing and what you're standing for on a daily basis part of who you are? I think what you meant, Lily, is you want friends who ignore that part of your life. You just cannot think that there are no consequences for your actions. I mean, this is what's wrong with our society today. We want freedom without responsibility or accountability. We want to experience our freedom to the fullest without bearing the responsibilities of our action or being accountable for our mistakes. You know, Lily, it's hard being friends with addicts, criminals, and alcoholics. Their lifestyle doesn't inherently make them entirely bad. However, their action and choices do have an impact. As long as you choose this lifestyle, this is part of who you are. You can't just divorce what you are doing publicly from who you are. You might be a cool person to be around, but would I choose to be your friend? I mean, these days, I wouldn't even be a friend with a woman who's taking advantage of one man only, using him for sex or for money. Because I believe the way you do something is the way you do everything, let alone this. What do you expect? Again, people have the right to be selective with who they choose to bring to their life and who they choose to associate with. And I doubt that you will find high-value friends outside this industry. Now let's fast forward here.
Anticipate.
Are you going to kiss any of the guys?
Definitely, definitely.
Kissing, in my opinion, is very intimate. I would feel disgusted if I ever kissed a guy I'm not attracted to. Just kissing. So kissing 100 strangers is sick alone. Do you remember the movie Pretty Woman, where Julia Roberts played the role of a hooker? She had a rule that no kissing on the lips for any customer.
That's why no kissing. It's too personal.
So you would let like these guys do that on your face?
Yeah.
And in your mouth?
Yeah.
What if they had HIV?
Is that where it comes from? With spunk in the mouth?
It can.
Oh, really?
No comments. At this point, there is no need for critical thinking. Just basic thinking would help.
Have you done anything to make sure there's not someone with a criminal record, for example, coming down?
We actually have not, no.
Do you feel safe?
Yeah. I mean...
But where is her father? Why isn't he protecting her from her madness? Why this guy is the only person to have raised the issue of safety? Okay, let's fast forward to Lily's big day.
Just one in, one out, like it feels intense.
Like more intense than you thought it might?
Definitely.
Sorry.
Okay.
Just take
1 minute.
Here, the human side of her is coming out. Because it's not natural. It's not normal. She feels violated. If a woman slept with one guy that she has feelings for, or she wants something more with, while he was using her, she usually feels disgusted after. She feels violated. Women's bodies release oxytocin during sex. It aids the reproductive functions. And it has psychological and physical implication as it affects or influences emotions. So casual sex is just harmful and it shouldn't be taken lightly, let alone sleeping with 100 men in one day and not expecting any consequences. I mean, of course, here on the screen, we won't hear about those consequences. You know, the only thing they will show is her acting as this is super cool, breaking records, acting as a role model. You go, girl, so empowered.
You go, girlfriend.
You never said that in your life, have you?
Not once.
I thought so.
All the psychological and perhaps the physical impact on her won't be shown or discussed here. And her digital footprints will remain to affect her future and to encourage other young women to follow her footsteps and feel empowered. But the question is Lily a victim? And I would argue, if she is a victim, then she is the victim of her family first. Her family didn't protect her and they didn't guide her. And a young and beautiful lady like her, she could have done great things with her life if she had a wise and strong support system around her. She's also a victim of extreme ideologies and third-wave feminist thinking that wants us to believe that lust is good as long as everyone involved is a consenting adult and no one is getting hurt. Modern society wants us to cancel traditional values like families, homemakers, motherhoods. Feelings like pride and shame are important for human development, and our actions will always have consequences. That's why we need to practice self-control and restraint. While Lily's documentary was going viral, another story was spreading. Clips from the liberation of Syrian political prisoners after the fall of the Assad regime. One particularly heartbreaking story is of a woman who was 19 years old only when she was arrested and imprisoned. When she was finally liberated, she was in her 30s with 3 children, none of whom she knew the fathers of. And there are many similar stories. Now, many of these women, not only they will suffer from PTSD, but from the stigma of being accepted back into society. I can't help but to reflect and compare these two realities. One woman wants to sleep with 100 men, wants to post it online, broadcast it, wants people still to accept her and celebrate her. Meanwhile, another woman in the same day and age endures torture in a political prison and still fears being labeled as tainted and not accepted back into society. The question is, what modern feminism is doing to protect the real victims,